In human life, there will always be changes from bad to good, and vice versa. This happened to both Wendy and Ruoli, caused by Charlie's kindness. Dear viewers, follow the journey of these two beautiful girls.
Chapter 2251. You don't have a cell phone. Charlie felt very unbelievable about Wendy's words. These days, even the aunts who set up street stalls have smartphones, and Wendy, a young and fashionable girl, does not even have a mobile phone. This is indeed a bit unbelievable. Wendy saw Charlie's face full of shock, and the whole person was even more embarrassed, and she kept saying, "Brother-in-law. My phone was taken away by Ragnar," Wendy said, lowering her head in shame. After these words, she really felt that she couldn't hold her face at all. The entire Wilson family is indeed at an end. She can't even use a mobile phone. This is what it is like to be poor. When Charlie heard this, he suddenly understood. After Ragnar returned, he hated the Wilson family deeply. He knew that he had not dealt with the Wilson family, so naturally he was going to come down hard. In fact, this kind of thing is not good. If he says hello to Ragnar, Ragnar will definitely restore their previous living standards, and even continue to invest in the Wilson family to bring the family back to life. After that, it only takes tens of millions to revitalize the Wilson family. Although Ragnar has lost most of his fortune, after that, the lean camel is bigger than a horse, and a little leaking out of his fingers is enough for the Wilson family to eat and drink. However, Charlie did not intend to do this. Today, the Wilson family is definitely on their own account, especially the old lady and Noah Wilson, who has been deliberately fighting against Charlie and his family. Therefore, they must be punished. Thinking of this, Charlie made up his mind to give Wendy a little favor at most, which was a reward for her to know how to return, sincerely apologize to him, and call him brother-in-law. Charlie has always been a clear-cut person. As long as the crime was not a capital crime, a certain amount of forgiveness can be granted on the basis of serious repentance. For example, Ragnar's family, although Wuchi is a SC*MBAG, in the final analysis, the crime is not to die. Although Ragnar and his eldest son Roger are domineering, they also did not commit a capital crime. Therefore, the three of them, although there are many hardships, have survived to the present. However, Ragnar's brother-in-law Shui Nanshan has done all bad things and lost his conscience. This kind of person can say nothing to keep him. Even if he decides to do good for a lifetime, he cannot keep him, and is already unforgivable. At this time, Charlie flipped through his pockets, found a 50 banknote, handed it to Wendy, and said, "Well, take a taxi." Wendy hesitated a bit, wondering whether she should take the 50 yuan. Although it was only 50 yuan, for her, it was a lot of money and it could play a big role. Her current workday is only 200 yuan. In addition to food, she has to buy some basic medicine for Noah and Harold. In fact, after these two people are removed, each person needs at least tens of thousands of treatment fees to recover quickly, but because they can't pay, they can only rely on a little bit of physical treatment, and the recovery speed is slow. Coupled with the lack of nutrition, the current situation of the two people is such that they may not really be able to get out of bed and walk after a year. Therefore, Wendy also hopes to make as much money as possible, even if it is only a few dozen yuan more. At least she can buy 2 caddies of spare ribs for her father and brother, or buy 2 big bones to make soup and drink. So, she bowed to Charlie and said sincerely, "Thank you, brother-in-law. I am indeed short of money now, so I won't be polite to you." After that, she took the 50 yuan with both hands. Charlie nodded, and said, "Take a taxi, you can get it for 10 yuan. Although Wendy was a little bit reluctant, since Charlie had said so, she did not dare to disobey, and quickly said, "Okay brother-in-law, thank you, brother-in-law." Charlie gave a hum and asked her, "When do you get off work?" Wendy whispered softly, "Customers who visit the house usually start from 10 o'clock in the morning and go to more than 7 o'clock, so we don't get off work until 7:30. Charlie nodded and said, "Okay, then hurry up and go, I'm leaving too." Wendy hurriedly bowed again and said, "Brother-in-law, slow down, pay attention to safety on the road." "Well, time to go." Charlie waved his hand, pressed the accelerator of the battery car, and left quickly. Wendy looked at Charlie's back and was filled with emotion. At this moment, what she hopes most is not how much money she will make or the favor of the rich. What she hopes most is to be able to sit in the back seat of Charlie's battery car. Because she felt that the back seat must look very easy and comfortable to sit. Charlie rode a battery car to Isaac's hotel. Isaac had already waited at the door in person. Seeing Charlie riding over, he hurriedly stepped forward and said, "Oh, master, your status is really not suitable for riding this kind of electric bike anymore. Why didn't you drive the car Solomon White gave you before? You don't like supercars, do you?" Charlie nodded. "That kind of car is not practical, and it is indeed too arrogant. As long as it is driven out, I will be chased by everyone, to watch and take pictures. I don't like such a high-profile feeling." Isaac hurriedly said, "Then I should arrange a low-key luxury car for you. What do you think of Phaeton?" Charlie waved his hand. "No, I'm used to riding an electric bike. Oris Hill is not too big. In such a small area in the city, I can run with an electric bike. However, I haven't recharged these days." "Yes, you will arrange for someone to charge this for me later." With that, he parked the electric bike at the door and urged, "Come, take me to see Ruoli." Isaac hurriedly said to a valet parking boy next to him, "Quickly park Mr. Wade's electric bike, wipe the inside and out of the car, and then recharge it." "Okay, President Isaac." The little boy responded and hurried over to push the electric bike away. Charlie and Isaac stepped into the hotel, and Isaac took him directly to the top floor of the hotel. The top floor of the hotel is the administrative zone, which is specially prepared for big bosses and big people. The characteristic of the administrative zone is that the area is relatively independent, and when the hotel is designed, several administrative areas have been built on the administrative floor. Each administrative floor has only one entrance, one elevator room, and one stairwell, between other administrative floors. Thickened reinforced concrete walls are used as a partition. This is not only safer and more private but also more convenient for security personnel to carry out their work. Otherwise, if it is an ordinary floor, there are several elevators, several sets of stairs, and air corridors connected, the route all complicated, and it is not easy for the big people to live in for reasons of security. Ruoli and others were placed in one of the administrative areas, and Isaac also arranged a lot of confidants to guard here to ensure that nothing goes wrong. At this time, Ruoli was wearing a corset and sports underwear sent by the waitress. In the living area of the room, she was running and exercising for internal strength training. For martial arts masters like her, talent is far from enough, and daily practice is also essential. Only with 10 or 20 years of hard work without slack it can be possible to become a martial artist. However, Ruoli now feels that she has never been able to settle down and concentrate on training. Because, as long as she tried to sink her heart, she couldn't help but think of Charlie in her mind. Just when she couldn't find the feeling, the doorbell rang. At this moment, she intuitively felt that Charlie might be here, and she was suddenly happy. Afterward, she rushed to the door in 2 steps and opened it directly. When she saw Charlie standing outside the door, she couldn't help but smile and blurted out, "Mr. Wade, you are finally here." After speaking, she suddenly realized that she was wearing only sports underwear, and her entire neck and chest were covered with sweat. She screamed in fright and blurted out, "Oh, Mr. Wade, wait a moment." As soon as the voice fell, she quickly closed the door. Charlie actually hadn't had time to see Ruoli's perfect figure and curve clearly before she closed the door. At this time, Ruoli was ashamed and impatient. She quickly found a bathrobe and put it on, then blushed and ran back to open the door. Facing Charlie, her face was already red as if there were 2 sunrise clouds, and she said shyly, "I'm sorry Mr. Wade, just now I just opened the door too abruptly." Quote, although Ruoli is a cruel martial arts master, emotionally, she is still a virgin who has never been tempted by the opposite S3X. Therefore, when facing Charlie, her embarrassment made her look like a martial arts master. Charlie was somewhat embarrassed at this time. Ruoli is the same as Qin Aoshui, the little pepper of the Qin family because they have received professional training all the year round, so both of them have excellent figures. Therefore, although the incident happened suddenly and hastily, it really feasted his eyes. It's just that Qin Aoshui didn't have the natural cold temperament of Ruoli. To put it bluntly, after getting acquainted with Qin Aoshui, She is like the little girl next door that all men like. But Ruoli had absolutely no such temperament. It wasn't because she was somewhat cramped in front of Charlie. In fact, her image in front of people always carried the taste of being far-sighted and not indecent, and even brought a cold and dangerous feeling to most men. After slightly adjusting his mentality, Charlie asked Ruoli, "Are you satisfied with your stay here?" Ruoli hurriedly said, "Very satisfied. I heard that this is the best hotel in Oris Hill, but I didn't expect Mr. Wade to be so polite." Charlie waved his hand. "It doesn't make any trouble. After all, Mr. Isaac is in charge of this hotel. Letting him arrange a few rooms is not a matter of great effort." Ruoli realized that Charlie was still standing at the door, so she hurriedly moved away, made a gesture of inviting, and said, "Mr. Wade, please come in and sit down." Charlie nodded and stepped into the room. Because it was a luxurious executive suite, Ruoli directly invited Charlie to sit on the sofa in the living room. As soon as Charlie sat down, she hurriedly used the tea from the hotel room to make a cup of tea and handed it to him, and said respectfully, "Mr. Wade, please have some tea." Charlie smiled slightly, thanked her, and then said, "Ms. Sue, I don't know if you watch TV." "No." Ruoli stroked the hair between the temples with a somewhat unnatural expression and stammered, last night actually. I haven't slept well. I only fell asleep in the early morning. Then I woke up and did a training session. Then you came." Charlie nodded and said, "I will probably tell you about it. Yesterday the National Security Agency of Japan issued a notice in which it disclosed your grandfather Chengfeng's activities with the self-defense forces." Ruoli said with a bit of resentment, "He is not my grandfather. I don't have such a grandfather." Charlie said, "I can understand your mood." Ruoli said embarrassedly, "I'm sorry Mr. Wade, I shouldn't interrupt you, you may continue." Charlie said, "But not long after, the media discovered that your father Xin flew to Australia overnight. Then the media changed the direction of the wind, saying that it was not your grandfather Chengfeng who betrayed you, but your father Xin. Saying that he betrayed you to silence your mouth and to bury the secret that you were his illegitimate daughter forever." Ruoli looked pale and said, This is not impossible." Charlie asked her, "Then which one do you believe more?" Ruoli thought about it for a few minutes before she said, "Mr. Wade, I believe that Chengfeng betrayed me." Charlie looked at her with interest and asked, "Oh. Why?" Ruoli said earnestly, "I have been by my father's side for several years. Although he has very fierce workmanship, he has a deep affection for his close relatives. He is very concerned about Zhufei and Jiu and knows me. After knowing my true identity, he was also very concerned about me. I think he wouldn't kill me. If he really wants to kill me, he shouldn't leave me in Sus house after knowing I am his daughter." After that, she analyzed, Chengfeng is a very legendary successful businessman of the older generation from the outside world. He is kind and warm, but in fact, he is a very ruthless person. Moreover, his heart is cruel, regardless of who it is, as long as the interests align, he will not let it go. Even his grandson is the same. So, I think Chengfeng is more likely to betray me." Charlie nodded in agreement and said, "My views are the same as you. Although I don't know how the father and son are, from the sequence of events and the logic behind it, it is possible that the mastermind is Chengfeng. Even bigger, Xin went to Australia overnight. In fact, it was a mobile target that helped Chengfeng attract firepower. It was also a mobile target that could only be hit, could not counterattack, and could not return the fire of words." Ruoli could not help sighing. Chengfeng has always been in control of the Su family's power. Although my father is the eldest son and a quasi-heir, he has no real rights in the Su family. He is responsible and obliged to report to Chengfeng. My father didn't dare to cultivate his own power at all, because Chengfeng was extremely sensitive to this matter. If my father cultivated his own power under his nose, he would be very angry and might even directly deprive him of his power. Heir's power. So, no matter how you look at this matter from any aspect, Chengfeng must be behind the scenes. Speaking of this, Ruoli said with a dim expression, "However, I don't know whether my father participated in it, and how much he did. He knew it from the beginning to end, or he didn't. Or he did know with no objection to it." Charlie asked her, "What are your plans, next?" Ruoli hurriedly said, "I have no plans of my own. When you rescued me, I had said at that time, I'll follow whatever you instruct. Charlie nodded and asked her, if one day, I want you to help me deal with the Su family, would you like to do it? Ruoli said without hesitation, I am willing to deal with the Su family. From my mother to me, I have been working hard to serve the family, and even ready to sacrifice for them at all times, but they have been so unsympathetic towards us, this hatred, I must repay it. Charlie nodded, if you say so. Ruoli hurriedly said, Mr. Wade, you let me deal with the Su family, Chengfeng, and other family members. I have no objection, and I can't ask for it, but I don't want to deal with my father and my half-brothers and sisters. Except for the three of them, anyone with the surname Su is an enemy in my eyes. Ruoli was unwilling to attack her biological father and her half-brother and sister. Not only was Charlie not unhappy, but he was relieved. In fact, if a person can really attack her brothers and sisters, or even her biological father, Charlie must have a strong guard against such people. Because in his opinion, no matter how bad a person is, he cannot be without humanity. If a person is true without humanity, even if he obeys his own words today, he will still be able to stab in the heart of anyone directly tomorrow. Therefore, in his opinion, although Ruoli has destroyed the Matsumoto family, she is still not inhuman. The reason for the act of exterminating that line was to execute the order. Just like a soldier, no matter what order his superior commander gives him, he, as a qualified soldier, must obey. Otherwise, he is not a qualified soldier. So Charlie didn't have any opinion on this, and he said, we too have a deep hatred with the Su family. You hate Chengfeng, and I hate Xin. You need Chengfeng to give you an explanation, and I also need Xin to give me an explanation, so the two of us have to work together as hard as possible when facing the Su family. Ruoli hesitated for a moment, and asked, Mr. Wade, do you hate my father because of the anti-Wade alliance back then? Charlie nodded and said coldly, back then, Xin held high the banner of the anti-Wade alliance and organized a group of people to target my father with all their strength. Although I still don't know how strong he has a hand in my father's death, how big his role in the anti-Wade alliance. But for the association with the words, anti-Wade alliance, alone, he is my enemy. Ruoli asked again, Mr. Wade, would you kill my father because of the anti-Wade alliance back then? Charlie thought for a few seconds and said with a serious face, if Xin's anti-Wade alliance was not the direct murderer of my parents, or did not directly participate in the murder of my parents, then I would not kill Xin. I will punish him reasonably based on his actual crimes. Speaking of this, Charlie's expression flashed coldly, and he sternly said, however, if he has an unshirkable responsibility for the death of my parents, then I must take his miserable life and use his head above the neck to pay homage to my parents. Ruoli nodded gently, although she prayed 1,000 times to let Charlie and Xin not meet in the battlefield. But she also knew very well in her heart that she didn't have the ability to control this matter, let alone the qualifications to control it. Not only was Charlie much stronger than himself, but Charlie even saved her life, and she was not qualified to intervene in any decision to avenge his parents' murder. Therefore, she could only pray silently in her heart, praying for her father Xin, and never be the culprit who killed Charlie's parents. Otherwise, with Charlie's strength, it would be easy to kill him. Thinking of this, Ruoli looked at Charlie and thought over and over again, but still asked, Mr. Wade, when can I contact my mother? Charlie said, it's not possible for the time being. Wait a minute. The main reason is that your current identity is too sensitive. News about you is raging throughout Asia. The Japanese government is also eager to arrest you and convict you. If the news that you are still alive leaks out, I wouldn't be able to keep you. After that, Charlie said again, I suggest you wait patiently. When the time is right, I will let you contact your mother. Ruoli nodded gently, and said respectfully, okay Mr. Wade, Ruoli will do everything you ordered. Charlie gave a hum, and said, these days, you will have a good rest here. Ruoli hurriedly said, okay Mr. Wade. Charlie thought of something, and asked curiously, oh, yes, when I just came in, I saw you as if you were training. Ruoli remembered how she was wearing only sports tube tops and sports shorts, and she nodded in embarrassment, and said, Mr. Wade, I usually practice every day. Charlie asked curiously, you martial arts masters, what do you usually practice when you practice? Ruoli replied truthfully, Every morning, I practice the special techniques that pass down my family. Charlie asked curiously, is it unique to the He family? Because Wade has the inheritance of martial arts, Charlie learned from his father when he was young. However, what's she doing, called Wing Chun, is just a set of relatively ordinary boxing techniques and martial arts, not internal boxing. In comparison, the ranks of Charlie's technique are Najiaquan, which is generally higher end than ordinary boxing. Because ordinary boxing is actually a kind of fighting technique. Whether it is Chinese Wing Chun, Japanese karate, Korean taekwondo, they are all fighting skills, but those who created these skills have their own ways of looking at problems. Different, so the fighting skills created are also different. But Najiaquan is unique. The main practice of Najiaquan is not physical skills, but the cultivation of internal strength. Thus dominated by internal strength exercises. In contrast, Najiaquan is much more advanced than ordinary boxing, and its overall strength is also stronger. It is precisely because of practicing internal boxing all the year round that Ruoli can surpass most of her peers and become a leader. However, the whole set of Xingyiquan she practiced was 1,000 miles away from Charlie's 9 profound heaven classics. Charlie wanted to mention it to her a little bit, so he said, Miss Ruoli, I want to give you a pulse. I don't know if it is convenient. Ruoli said without hesitation, of course, Mr. Wade, please. After that, she handed her right hand to Charlie. Charlie's fingertips lightly placed on Ruoli's veins, a trace of spiritual energy passed through the veins and into Ruoli's body. The spiritual energy wandered through her body, and Charlie immediately discovered that Ruoli's 8 channels of the odd meridian in her body had only opened up 2 channels. The 2 channels of Ren and Du are actually the collective name of 2 channels. The Ren and Du channels are part of the 8 channels of the odd meridian. There are 8 odd meridians and 8 channels, namely Ren, Du, Chong, Ban, Yin Chao, Yang Chao, Yin Wei, and Yang Wei. The reason they are said to be the 8 meridians of the odd meridian is mainly that, for most people, these 8 meridians are naturally unconnected. The traditional Chinese martial arts and Taoist training methods are all about practicing energy. This energy is stored in the body and sinks in the core. When it moves, it passes through the 8 meridians. Therefore, whether or not the 8 channels of the odd meridian are opened up and how much is connected directly relates to the person's strength. To put it bluntly, if a person is an internal combustion engine, then the gas in the core is the fuel when the internal combustion engine is running. The Kijing Bamai is the 8 pipelines that supply fuel to the internal combustion engine. If none of the 8 pipelines are opened, then this person is a completely ordinary person. If 1 or 2 of these 8 are connected, this person's strength can rise by a large margin. If you get through the 8 points, you will almost reach the pinnacle of internal cultivation. Ruoli has only opened up the 2 channels of Ren and Du, and there are still 6 channels left. If she can get another 1, his strength can be doubled. It's a pity that it is impossible to get through the 8 meridians of the energy meridian in a traditional practice. Taking the Xingyiquan of the He family as an example, for hundreds of years, only one ancestor of the He family has opened up 4 of the 8 channels of the odd meridian. For the rest, the best will only get through 3. In the current He family, only Ruoli's grandfather Luther can open up the 3 meridians. In the 40 years after he opened up the 3 meridians, the He family has never made a second one. More, in fact, only one can get through in a lifetime. Ruoli is only in her early 20s this year and has already opened up the 2 lines of Ren and Du. This is already a top-notch feat among the young people of the Ren family and other major martial arts families. Moreover, Ruoli did not dare to hope that she could get through the 3rd meridian. Her biggest wish now is to strive to make her 2 lines of Ren and Du more smooth. Because there are multiple dimensions in the measurement of the internal masters. How many odd meridians and 8 meridians are connected is just one of them. The second of these is to see whose meridians are more smooth. Just like Ruoli, she got through the Ren channel at the age of 15 and the Du channel at the age of 20. According to the judging standards of people in martial arts, the unobstructed degree of the 8 channels of the odd meridian, from 1 to 10, is divided into 10%. Ruoli first opened up the Ren vessel, so her Ren vessel's smoothness has reached 40%. However, it didn't take long for her to get through the Du vessel, and the current smoothness of the Du vessel has not exceeded 20%. After investigating Ruoli's cultivation level, Charlie couldn't help feeling a little bit emotional. If you didn't get the 9 profound heavenly sutras, relying on the Wing Chun boxing you learned when you were young, let alone getting through the Ren Du channel, even the Ren channel would not be able to get through. In that case, in front of Ruoli, he was as weak as a vegetable chicken. But just because he had obtained the 9 profound heaven scriptures, mastered the use of aura, and supplemented with a lot of rejuvenation pills to improve his strength, his current strength not only crushes the warriors who have broken through the 2 channels of Ren Du, even a strange script, a martial arts master who has all 8 meridians is not qualified to fight him. After that, compared to internal energy, aura is simply a crushing dimensionality reduction blow. It is like the absolute advantage of hot weapons over cold weapons. Charlie had the intention to mention Ruoli a little bit, so he used that ray of spiritual energy to directly increase Ruoli's Ren vessel from 40% to 100%. Ruoli at this time had already clearly felt the difference. This feeling is very obvious to her. Before it was as if she had been in a bad cold, her nose was mostly blocked, and it was very difficult to breathe. But now, her breathing becomes very smooth in an instant, and she feels that compared to before, it is simply one place at a time. She looked at Charlie in shock, and blurted out, "Young Mr. Wade, what have you done to me? How come my Ren vessel is instantly accessible?" Charlie smiled indifferently, and said, "I saw that your Ren vessel was not smooth enough, so I helped you through it." What? Ruoli was shocked as if struck by lightning. As a person who has been practicing martial arts for more than 10 years, she is very aware of the importance of meridian patency. People in martial arts pay the most attention to opening up the number of meridians, and they have been smooth. The 2 are horizontal and vertical, and 1 is indispensable. Because the Ren channel is the first channel of the 8 meridians and the foundation of martial art, whether and to what extent the next 7 meridians can be opened depends almost entirely on how strong the foundation laid by the Ren channel is. Therefore, she has always hoped to increase the smoothness of the Ren vessel to another level. Even if it only increased from 40% to 50%, it would have been a remarkable improvement. But she couldn't think of it. Charlie only gave her own pulse for such a short time, and then quietly increased the smoothness of her pulse from 40% to 100%. For people in martial arts, 1 meridian can reach 10% smoothness, which means that this meridian has become fully functional. Meridian, in the realm of martial arts, is a realm that only exists in legends. According to the genealogy records, even the ancestor of the He family who opened up the 4 meridians did not achieve success in his Ren channel, but only reached the realm of 80%. Now, Charlie helped Ruoli raise the Ren vessel to 100%, which is simply helping her strengthen the foundation of martial arts more than twice. This not only makes her current strength take a big step forward but also makes her future martial arts journey much smoother. With the Great Ren as the foundation, her martial arts will be more effective in the future. Ruoli was extremely excited, but also shocked in her heart. Young Mr. Wade just gave me a pulse lightly, and he can bring such a huge improvement to my cultivation base. How strong is his strength? Ren core is tantamount to hitting the foundation of martial arts to the extreme. This is something that I can't even think of in this life, and it is also an achievement that all martial arts people can never achieve in a lifetime. However, in Mr. Wade's hands, it's just as easy as moving your fingers. This is nothing short of gold. However, this kind of supernatural power is nothing more than easy in Mr. Wade's mouth. How powerful is Mr. Wade to achieve such an incredible level? It seems that my previous knowledge of Mr. Wade is far from enough. Before, I thought he should be more powerful, but today I know that his strength is far more than that. Even, it is far beyond the scope of what I can imagine. Thinking of this, she felt more fortunate in her acquaintance with Charlie. Although the first half of this acquaintance was not pleasant, since Charlie rescued her, this man has been using practical actions to subvert her worldview. If it weren't for knowing Charlie, it would be impossible for her to have such good luck. Immediately, she knelt on the ground with a thud, and choked with emotion. "Mr. Wade, your great kindness, please accept it." After speaking, she leaned down and knocked her head heavily. Charlie said calmly, "It's just a matter of raising your hand, and you don't have to give this big gift." Ruoli said solemnly, "Young Mr. Wade, the good fortune you gave Ruoli, many martial arts practitioners can hardly achieve for in a lifetime. this kind of grace, I cannot forget it. Charlie smiled faintly. Spend time to improve the smoothness of the Du vessel, and then try to get through the Chong vessel. This is the most important thing for you at the moment. If you can't go out during this time, you should practice in the hotel. Ruoli hurriedly said, Okay young Mr. Wade, I will definitely go all out and try not to let you down. Charlie nodded, stood up, and said, Okay, you continue to practice, I will leave. Ruoli asked subconsciously, Mr. Wade, you are leaving now. Charlie hummed and said casually, I have to buy some food and go home to cook. If I linger for a while, it will delay my wife's lunch. Ruoli was shocked in the ecstasy, and at the same time filled with disappointment. She blurted out and asked, Mr. Wade, are you married? Charlie nodded. I have been married for 4 years. Ruoli was shocked and said, the Wade family is also the second largest family in the country. How come I have never heard of the Wade family son's wedding? Charlie laughed. I, the Wade family son, have lived outside for 19 years. The Wade family only came to me a year ago. Before that, I had been married and joined a local family in Oris Hill. Becoming a live-in son-in-law. What? Ruoli felt that her views were completely subverted by Charlie again. I heard about the disappearance of Chengfeng's son in Eastcliff. But I can't even imagine that among people like young Mr. Wade, Dragon and Phoenix would actually be the son-in-law in Oris Hill. Not to mention that he is a descendant of the Wade family, the only son of the famous Chengfeng, and that his outstanding attainments in martial arts are enough to attract all martial arts people. Don't look at those martial arts masters, who are usually respected by major families. If Mr. Wade, a top master with great magical powers, is willing to start a cult, countless martial arts masters will definitely squeeze their heads and worship at his door, wholeheartedly serving him. Quote, so, as long as he wants, he can be the object of admiration anytime. Why would such a man who can endure the sky be willing to be a live-in son-in-law in Oris Hill? Just when Ruoli was so excited about the good fortune that Charlie sent to her, and at the same time he came out to be a live-in son-in-law, Charlie said indifferently, if you have any needs, directly talk to Isaac. He will help you, and I will now. Ruoli said quickly, young Mr. Wade, I will see you off. Ruoli sent Charlie to the door of the room, and Charlie said, you may return. Ruoli nodded respectfully, bowed deeply, and said gratefully, Mr. Wade, thank you. Charlie smiled slightly, don't worry about it. Having said that, he immediately left. Seeing Charlie's back figure out of his administrative district, Ruoli felt a panic in her heart. She closed the door and murmured involuntarily, Mr. Wade really has great magical powers. My mother and grandpa have taken me to practice hard for so many years, and they have never given me such good luck. Even grandpa himself has not been able to take his Ren reach the core, but, in front of Mr. Wade, all of this seems to be effortless. If it were not for Mr. Wade's help, she would not have reached such a realm in this life. Thinking of this, Ruoli's eyes were already full of tears. The He family are all martial fanatics. Their greatest pursuit is martial arts in life. Ruoli's grandfather's greatest wish is to one day open up the 4 meridians and revitalize the glory of the He family. It's a pity that he is now in his old age, and he still can't find a way to break through. Over the years, as he grew older, his strength has been somewhat uncontrollable in decline, and there is no hope for a breakthrough. Originally, Ruoli's mother, Yingshou, was the most promising descendant of the He family. At a young age, she was infinitely close to breaking through the 3rd meridian. At that time, her grandfather concluded that Yingshou would surely achieve a breakthrough within 5 years, becoming the first person in the He family to break through the 3 meridians before the age of 30 in nearly 100 years. But it is a pity that at the most critical stage, she was seriously injured to save Xin. The most serious thing is that she broke an arm for Xin. In martial arts novels, there are often one-armed heroes, such as the one-armed god Ni, Princess Chengfeng, and the magical sculpture hero Yongguo. But after that, they are all martial arts works, and they cannot be true. The real masters of the inner family don't have the ability to fly over the wall and fight bulls in the air. What they rely on is external and internal hard work. No matter how the inner strength of the inner masters is trained, the real transformation into the lethality against the enemy depends on the limbs. One of the limbs is missing, and the strength is directly lost by a quarter. This still does not consider coordination. In fact, If a person loses one arm, the ability of the other arm will be greatly compromised due to a lack of coordination. Therefore, even though Yingxiu is a martial arts genius, her talent can never make up for her body's shortcomings, so her strength has no room for improvement over the years. It can be said that the revitalization hope of the entire He family rests on Ruoli. Although her surname was Su, the He family never regarded her as an outsider. She is of the He family's flesh and blood, grew up in the He family and practiced the He family's Xingyi Quan, so she is the progeny of the He family. When Yingxiu gave birth to Ruoli in October, the first thought of the head of the He family, Luther, was that the child was born with the surname He. Anyway, she is the illegitimate daughter of Xin, and the He family was not going to let Xin know about this. Naturally, it was reasonable to lend her their surname. However, Yingxiu insisted that her surname must be Su. The reason is that Yingxiu's feelings towards Xin in her heart. She felt that even if she quietly gave birth to Xin's child, she was not going to tell Xin, but out of respect for Xin, she still wanted the child to follow his surname Su. Yingxiu's father, Luther, couldn't help but compromise her. However, Luther also made a request that Ruoli could not have the surname He, but if she gave birth to a boy in the future, he must have a surname He. Yingxiu agreed. She felt that in the future, Ruoli must be recruited. After that, He's family is not a waiting generation, and it is not difficult to recruit a son-in-law. From these things, it can be seen that the He family attaches great importance to Ruoli, which is not difficult to explain, why Ruoli also desires to allow the He family to rise again in the martial arts. Especially this time the Su family fell into trouble, and Ruoli lost all confidence and affection for the Su family. She had already made a plan in her heart. When the turmoil of this incident passed and when she could return to the He family, she would immediately change her surname to He and try her best to help the lintel of the He family. At the same time, she also intends to persuade Grandpa to let the whole He family be loyal to Charlie, not only to repay this great favor but also to have a better good fortune in the future. At this moment, Charlie left the hotel administrative area, and Isik was waiting at the door. Seeing Charlie coming, he hurried forward and said respectfully, "Master, how was your talk to Miss Su?" Charlie said calmly, "The talk was pretty good. She will stay in the hotel during this time. You will take care of her and other people for me. But it's the point I said before. Don't let them contact the outside world, only allow them to watch TV and answer calls from the service staff." Isik nodded hurriedly and said, "Master, don't worry, I will arrange it." With that, he hurriedly handed a rectangular packing box to Charlie, and said, "Master, this is the new phone you asked me to buy." Before Charlie entered Ruoli's room and left, he had instructed Isik to arrange for someone to buy a new mobile phone, so Isik asked someone to buy the latest top-matched iPhone. The reason why Charlie asked Isik to arrange for someone to buy a mobile phone was mainly that he wanted to go to the Pearl River Woods where Wendy worked and give her this mobile phone when he returned. Then, transfer some money to her PayPal or Alipay to make her life less embarrassing for some time in the future. This is his consistent principle of being a man. People respect him and he respects others. Wendy looked down on him for so many years, so Charlie didn't have any softness or tenderness towards her before. But now that she has sincerely admitted her mistakes and called him her brother-in-law sincerely, then he naturally has to express himself. "If you respect and obey me, I will let you benefit from it." This is the key quality of becoming a master. And those who respect him, obey him, and he does not benefit you, they will never achieve true success. Some bosses, even if they have thousands of possessions, can hardly escape a word. Even if relatives, friends, and subordinate staff treat him respectfully and work hard for him, he is still reluctant to give the benefits he deserves. There are also some bosses who like to do things like hiding all the birds, crossing the river, and demolishing bridges. Such a person will sooner or later lose the support of everyone, lose the help of his confidant, and become a lonely person. Once deficient in morals and helplessness, naturally there is no chance to become a master. Those well-known entrepreneurs who are really big, without exception, all follow the law of, "Those who follow me prosper." Only in this way can we gain the support of others and make our own career bigger and bigger. This is the essence of the 5 words, "Those who follow me prosper." At this time, Charlie got the cell phone and said to Isik, "Okay, Mr. Isik, I'm leaving." Isik blurted out, "Master, I will take you down." Charlie said lightly. No, you go and do your job, don't worry about me. Isaac hurriedly smiled and said, I just want to go down, and come along. Charlie nodded, did not say more. Chapter 2261. Charlie left the hotel, rode on his little e-car, and ran for the Pearl River Woods first. This community has just opened, and recently it has been advertising and promoting sales everywhere in Oris Hill, so Charlie also heard about it. If you change it to a few years ago, any newly opened community will be sold out by crazy citizens and speculators in a very short time. However, recently real estate brokers are not doing well, and many new communities are experiencing slow sales, so these developers have begun to do everything possible to promote sales. Wendy originally wanted to apply for a real estate sales job, but because the salary for this job would not be settled until the next month, so she had to go back and work as a temporary etiquette lady in an etiquette company. To put it plainly, the etiquette company is a human intermediary company. Like housekeeping agencies, they signed a large number of girls who wanted to be courtesy ladies, and then set different prices according to the external conditions of each girl and then took the information of these girls to match with Party A. For example, if a clubhouse opens for a celebration, if 20 slender, beautiful, and temperamental ladies are needed, they will directly talk to the etiquette company. The etiquette company takes the profile photos of the etiquette, let Party A choose, after the selection, negotiate the price, and then arrange the schedule and time with the etiquette. Generally speaking, the cost of Party A to the etiquette company is, on average, an etiquette lady, ranging from $400 to $800 per day. However, these etiquette companies will take half or more from the middle and give the etiquette ladies $200 to $400 compensation. Although Wendy is not as pretty as Claire, she is definitely a beauty, with a good figure and good temperament. In Party A, she can get 800 stalls. Correspondingly, the etiquette company should also give her $400 a day's remuneration. However, the person in charge of the etiquette company realized that Wendy was short of money, so he deliberately lowered her price, only willing to give her 200 yuan a day. Wendy felt that the three relatives in the family were waiting to eat and take medicine, and they couldn't cut off their cash income every day, so even if she was exploited a little bit harder, she could only accept it with anger. At this time, she was wearing a blue Cheongsam-style lady etiquette uniform, standing at the door of the Redwoods sales office to welcome guests. The current season is still the first month, the temperature is very low, and the uniform she wears is very thin, and her calf wearing only silk stockings is exposed underneath. After standing at the door for less than half an hour, her body has become stiff from the cold. However, in order to make money, she did not dare to have any complaints, she could only clench her teeth and persist. At this time, she had been standing at the door for more than an hour. She was trembling with cold, her face was pale and her lips were blue, but she still forced herself to keep the sign of the lady of manners, smiling, nodding and bowing to every customer who entered the sales office. Say hello. At this time, a woman in a mink fur coat came out from the sales office and said to Wendy, "Girl, today President Liu ordered that all our hostesses must sign an exclusive guarantee agreement with the company, while there are no customers. Come to see the room, you sign the agreement with me." The woman's name was Mia Chen, who was the site supervisor of Wendy's etiquette company and the second in command of the company. Wendy asked respectfully, "Sister Mia, what does the exclusive guarantee agreement mean?" Mia said arrogantly, "The exclusive guarantee agreement means that from now on, you can only cooperate with our etiquette service company exclusively, and you cannot have any form of business dealings with other etiquette companies. Otherwise, the company has the right to request you compensate." Wendy asked again, "Isn't it an exclusive guarantee agreement? What does the guarantee mean other than exclusive cooperation with our company?" Mia explained, "The guarantee means that you have to guarantee a minimum of 28 events for the company in a month. If due to your personal reasons, the number of events in the month does not meet the requirements, the company will also ask you to compensation, or deduct part of your labor costs." Wendy asked, "Will the company benefit from signing this agreement?" "Benefits?" Mia curled her lips. "The good thing is that as long as you follow the company's requirements and have at least 28 activities per month, the company will give you a basic salary of 5,000 yuan. When Wendy heard this, she said with joy, "Sister Mia, what do you mean is that in addition to the 200 yuan for each event, the company also gives a basic salary of 5,000 yuan? Yes. Mia nodded and said, "This is a contract specially prepared by the company for employees. Most people don't have this opportunity." After that, she handed the agreement to Wendy and urged, "Come, sign, and handprint quickly, and I will take it back to the company and report it to Mr. Lu when I'm done." Wendy was overjoyed. If there are 28 activities in a month, the activity fee alone will be 5,000 yuan, plus a basic salary of 5,000 yuan, which is more than 10,000 yuan. She hadn't looked down upon her with a monthly salary of over 10,000 before, but now, a monthly salary of over 10,000 is of great significance to her. With this income, the family no longer has to go hungry. Moreover, as long as the money is used for living expenses, as long as they don't buy things randomly, the family can definitely eat well, and the recovery speed of the father and brother's body must be a lot faster. She was overjoyed and didn't think much about it. She probably looked at the contract and saw that the basic salary of 5,000 yuan per month was indeed written, so she relieved herself and immediately signed her name, and then covered it with the ink pad that Mia handed over. Made her own handprints. After receiving the contract, Mia smiled triumphantly and said, "Oh, Wendy, you are welcome to become the exclusive contract artist of our Chengmei etiquette company. You must work hard in the future." Wendy said excitedly, "Sister Mia, you can rest assured, I will definitely work harder." Mia hummed, and said, "Okay, I'll go back to the company first. After you are off work, you can sign with your team leader to go back." Wendy hurriedly asked, "Sister Mia, are you still here this afternoon?" Mia waved her hand, "I won't come here. The company has taken over etiquette work in several other buildings today. I will go to inspect the site this afternoon." Wendy has worked with this company for a few days, knowing that Mia is the person responsible for on-site payment of salaries. At the end of every day, she takes cash to settle the settlement for everyone, so when she heard that she would not come in the afternoon, she hurriedly asked, "Sister Mia, do you find the team leader to settle today's expenses after getting off work?" Mia looked surprised. "The cost? What is the cost?" Wendy hurriedly said, "That's the etiquette expenses for today, 200 yuan. Mia looked at Wendy and said with contempt, "I said Wendy, did you not wake up? What dreams are you doing here?" Wendy said nervously, "Sister Mia, what's wrong with me?" Mia shook the contract in her hand and said coldly, "Wendy, the contract is clearly written. The company will give you a basic salary of 5,000 yuan and pack your 28 activities per month. All your remuneration is in these 5,000 are included in the monthly salary. What do you want me to pay for today's etiquette? Doing a job and asking for money twice, why do you think so? Are you so beautiful?" When Wendy heard Mia's words, she asked in surprise, "Sister Mia, didn't you just say that? The money for the activities separate and the basic salary is not included in it." Mia curled her lips and said, "What you think is really beautiful. I tell you, Mr. Lu said that in the future, all etiquette ladies must settle monthly, so starting from today, you will work for the company steadily. As long as you are full 28 activities, you will receive a basic salary of 5,000 on the 15th of next month." Wendy's expression suddenly became embarrassed, and she said, "Sister Mia, one event is 200, and 28 events should be 5,006. The company uses 5,000 yuan to pack it. That means I will give the company 3 for nothing every month. What?" After that, she said very embarrassedly, "I'm relatively tight lately, I can't accept this kind of cooperation method of monthly settlement, or I won't sign it." "Huh, no sign." Mia sneered. "Wendy, do you think that Miss Etiquette's wings hardened after a few days of work?" Wendy shook her head and said religiously, "Sister Mia, I didn't mean that, I think this cooperation method is really not suitable for me." Mia snorted and said seriously, "Wendy, let me tell you that you have signed the contract. If you want to break the contract at this time, you must bear the responsibility for the breach of contract." Wendy realized that she had been deceived, so she hurriedly asked, "What is the responsibility for the breach of contract?" Mia raised the contract in her hand and sneered, "This is clearly written in black and white. You have signed a contract with the company voluntarily. If you voluntarily breach the contract, you will have to pay the company a penalty of 500,000 yuan. Otherwise, the company has the right to sue you in court." As soon as Wendy heard this, she felt a little frustrated and hurriedly pleaded, Sister Mia, I rely on 200 yuan to support my family every day. Please, there are 2 patients who are paralyzed in bed at my house. Kindly void that contract. Void. Mia sarcastically said, what is your dream? You can also make this contract void. First, bring 500,000 yuan in a penalty. Wendy said, Sister Mia, if I get 500,000 yuan, I won't come to do this job. Yo. Mia scoffed and said with a mockery, listening to tone, it seems that you think this job is shameful. Wendy hurriedly shook her head. I didn't mean that, I just wanted to say, I really can't spend that much money. Mia roared fiercely, UFC King SLT can't get the liquidated damages and still haunt me here. If you can't get the liquidated damages, you can work honestly with me. The contract period for this contract is 3 years. In 3 years and 36 months, you have to do 28 games every month, otherwise, 1 less game and 1,000 deductions until all deductions are made. What? Wendy cried anxiously, and blurted out, aren't you cheating? It's less than 200 yuan for 1 game. If you lose 1 game, you will deduct 1,000. If I do it in a month 23 games, 5 games are missing, then you want to deduct all my $5,000. Mia glared at Wendy and said with a smile, you should be fortunate that the contract is only deducted and you are not compensated. If you are allowed to compensate, you will lose all your earned money. Wendy blurted out, it's too evil of you. I won't do it. I won't honor the contract. Not fulfilled. Mia sneered, if you don't fulfill it, then follow me back to the company and give the company an IOU of 500,000. Wendy was anxious and asked, why? Why? Mia curled her lips in disdain, turned around, and rushed to a golden cup car at the door to beckon. In the car, 4 strong men came out of the car and directly surrounded Wendy. Mia scolded the brawny men, take her into the car and get her back to the company. I don't believe it anymore. I can't stop her from being a rebel. Okay, Sister Mia. One of the strong men immediately responded, and even if he led someone to the front, he grabbed Wendy's arm tightly, and yelled, honestly follow us in the car, otherwise you will not feel better. Quote, I'm not going. Wendy blurted out, you are committing a crime in broad daylight. I want to call the police to arrest you. Call the police. Mia came up and slapped Wendy, and yelled, UFC King think you can bluff me by calling the police. Tell you, there are so many ways for me to see you with a cheap hoof. I have a million ways to do it. I can get you killed. Wendy blurted out, you are too bullying. Now it's a society under the rule of law. How can you be allowed to be so nonsense? Mia sneered and said, what about bullying you? What I am doing is bullying. I tell you, President Liu is the #1 person on Oris Hill Road. If you dare to be smart, it's not just you who will feel the heat, at the end, your family will not have anything to eat. She said, Wendy, don't blame me for not reminding you, don't say anything else, just the contract you signed and drew in my hand. The price of 10,000 is sold to a debt collection agency. When the time comes, people from the collection agency will come to your house every day to block you and force you to pay back the money. Paint, no matter where you go to work, they will go to the place where you work and beat you to death. Mia's etiquette company was originally built by a grey group in Oris Hill. Their mode of operation is to first use normal cooperation to lure the little girls in, then trick them into signing a sales agreement, and then use the sales agreement to firmly control them. Plain looks generally become their coolies, with the lowest remuneration, helping them to be polite ladies everywhere, desperately squeezing, and some even run 3 or 4 activities a day. And those who look better are basically forced to go to KTV to be a princess or lady, and some are even forced to go on the road of the dust. Mia feels that Wendy's appearance is indeed excellent. If she is controlled and sent to high-end clubs, she can create at least 50,000 or 60,000 benefits in a month, which is definitely a cash cow. She was also worried that there would be many dreams in the night, so she hurriedly said to those people, quickly, get her in the car. Several strong men immediately grabbed Wendy and dragged her into the car. Wendy's scared soul was not possessed, and she blurted out, help. It is a kidnapping. Some passers-by heard it and looked over immediately. Mia hurriedly said loudly, don't get me wrong, we are Oris Hill Shengmei Etiquette Company, a formal enterprise. This girl is one of our employees. Some time ago, her parents had a car accident. Our boss kindly lent her 500,000 yuan to see a doctor. In the end, she did well and quietly took the money to gamble. Don't talk about losing all the money, and abandoning her parents in the hospital regardless. We are going to take her to the hospital to see her dying parents and see if we can reawaken her conscience. When everyone heard this, they didn't know who to believe. At this time, Mia whispered to those people, "Get in the car." Those people immediately pulled Wendy out of the car door, and she was about to push her into the car. Wendy was frightened at this time, and her heart was desperate. She knew in her heart that once she got in the car, she would be on the thief ship, and she might not be able to get off in her life. Just when she was desperate and didn't know what to do, she suddenly heard a familiar voice whispering coldly, "Let her go." With this roar, Wendy and others including Mia immediately followed the sound subconsciously. At this moment, they saw Charlie riding his electric bike, quickly approaching everyone. Immediately, Charlie stopped the electric bike and did not get out of the car. He put his legs on the sides of the electric bike and said in a cold voice, "Let her come to me." When Mia saw that Charlie was driving an electric bike, her expression immediately became extremely disdainful, and sarcastically said, "Who should you be? A hero to save China? It turns out to be a damn SC*mbag. After she finished speaking, she gave a cold snort and snorted, "Smelly filth, I tell you, don't be nosy here, otherwise, I will make you unable to eat." Seeing Charlie's sudden appearance, Wendy immediately felt a strong sense of security, and hurriedly cried out, "Brother-in-law, brother-in-law, please help me, brother-in-law." When Mia heard this, she couldn't help but sneered, "Oh, you are her brother-in-law, what's the matter? Want to redeem her?" Charlie smiled and asked her, "How do you call this lady? I don't know where my sister-in-law has offended you." Mia curled her lips, "You are not worthy of knowing my name. As for how your sister-in-law has offended me, you don't need to know so clearly. You only need to know one thing. Your sister-in-law owes me 500,000, if you pay the money, I will let her go now, if you don't pay, then I will take her away." Wendy hurriedly said aggrieved, "Brother-in-law, I don't owe them money at all. They lied to me to sign a contract. The contract came with a penalty of 500,000 yuan. This is completely a contract fraud." Charlie waved his hand, "Okay, Wendy, don't talk, I'll talk to this young lady." After that, he looked at Mia with a smile, and said, "Beauty, isn't it 500,000? This matter is really easy to solve. Otherwise, you can give me a card number or your Alipay now. Account, I will send you 500,000 immediately." Mia frowned and looked at Charlie, and said coldly, "Cut, what the hell? You don't even have a decent car to drive, can you give me 500,000? Charlie didn't get angry, so he took out his mobile phone and smiled. "In this way, you can open your Alipay now, and I will transfer the money to you now. If the money arrives, you will release the person directly, if the money does not arrive, you can do whatever you like." Mia started to hesitate at this time. She thought to herself, looking at his stupid look, he doesn't seem to be bragging. If he can really put out 500,000, this is an excellent deal. Even if I bring Wendy back and force her to work for me, she can be squeezed for tens of thousands of dollars a month at most. If he wants to squeeze out 500,000, it will take at least half a year or even longer for Wendy to earn for the company. Now that this idiot is willing to spend 500,000 to settle this matter, wouldn't I just make 500,000 for nothing in one morning? Thinking of this, she immediately said to Charlie, "Since you really have the intention to settle this matter for her, then I will give you a chance, but don't blame me for not reminding you in advance. If you dare to play with me, not only will I take your sister-in-law away today, even you will not end well." Charlie smiled and said, "Don't worry, you have so many people here, how dare I play a trick on you?" Mia snorted and immediately took out her mobile phone and opened her Alipay. Charlie casually scanned the QR code for receiving payments, and then immediately fill in an amount of 500,000 in the transfer column. Because the amount is relatively large, Alipay requires full name verification, so Charlie smiled and said to Mia, "Beauty, it won't work if you don't tell me your name this time. The transfer needs to be verified." Mia shrugged her shoulders and said arrogantly, "My name is Mia, my last name is Chen." Charlie nodded, entered her name on it, and then clicked to confirm. After Alipay's face recognition passed, a prompt popped up immediately indicating that the transfer was successful. Mia's hand shook, and a prompt popped up immediately, Charlie transfers 500,000 yuan to you. When she saw this message, the whole person was surprised that there was nothing to add, and she was excited secretly. Mom. This money is too smooth. I have never made such good money in my life. President Benjamin, if I know it, I must be rewarded at least 100,000 yuan. Excited, Mia couldn't help but glanced at Charlie and smiled. I didn't expect that Mr. Charlie would be quite generous. In order to help your sister-in-law, you can use your fingers to pay 500,000. Charlie laughed and said, it's not the same, I'm just a little rag, and it's not easy to work hard to get a lot of money. If it wasn't because she was my sister-in-law, I wouldn't be so happy. Wendy saw that Charlie really gave 500,000 yuan, and immediately cried and said, brother-in-law, you can't just give them the money. They are just a bunch of bandits. Mia immediately scolded, Wendy, pay attention to your words. Our contract is written in black and white, and you have also handprinted it yourself. Now I am using this money to act according to the contract. Why is it a robbery? Wendy trembled with anger, and said angrily, are you not a robber? You know yourself. The contract itself is fraudulent. Charlie said at this moment, oh, Wendy, stop talking nonsense. Wendy didn't expect Charlie to agree to the compensation so easily and choked up, brother-in-law. I know you make money easy, but you can't dole it out to them so freely. Charlie laughed and said, how can this be called cheaper for them? When Mia heard this, she immediately echoed, that's right, how can it be cheaper for us? Follow the rules, the money itself is what you should pay to the company. Or Mr. Wade knows the law, you girl knows bullsh. Charlie turned his face at this time and said to Mia, Miss Mia, you have misunderstood what I meant. Mia frowned. What do you mean? Charlie smiled and said, the money I gave you was indeed not for you in vain. I borrowed this money from you, with an interest of 500,000 per minute. Now 2 minutes have passed. You should pay me back with the interest. 1,500,000. After speaking, Charlie said again, oh, yes, I suggest you hurry up, it will be 3 minutes right away, and then it will be 2 million. Mia gritted her teeth immediately and cursed, are you FC King crazy? Playing this game with Mia. Do you think you can get what you wish for? Really damn mentally retarded. After that, she waved to the strong men around her, and said coldly, get him. What Mia thought was, the 500,000 yuan has already arrived at her Alipay. She naturally doesn't have the need to continue talking to this guy. She can just leave. He is riding an electric bike. What can he do to her? If he dares to follow her pretend to be forced, she can deal with him on the spot. Upon hearing this, several strong men immediately pushed Wendy aside, preparing to get in the car and leave. Charlie pointed at Mia at this time and said coldly, others can leave, you have to stay, Miss Mia, when will you pay back the money, and then can you leave? As soon as Mia heard this, she immediately scolded, damn, don't give me a face. Come here, give me a fight. The strong men around Mia had already been gearing up. Their company, which specializes in gray areas, wants to make money entirely on performance. Mia's performance depends entirely on how many little girls she deceived, and then how much value she squeezed from these little girls. The performance of their thugs depends on how many times they move their hands successfully. In layman's terms, if there is no chance to do it for a month, they can only get a basic salary. But if there are fights every day this month, they can get at least tens of thousands of wages. They have seen this business today. Mia already has 500,000 in Alipay. If they try to teach the mentally retarded guy in front of them, they will have at least 20,000 or 30,000 of the 500,000. Therefore, as soon as they heard Mia's order, they immediately stepped toward Charlie and pressed them, and each of them was going to take action. Charlie smiled lightly on his face. Not to mention a few thugs, even a few martial arts masters like Ruoli are not enough in front of him. So, he directly greeted them with a smile. Kicked one with a bang, knocked another with a bang, and then lifted a strong man with both hands, and threw him lightly with both arms, and threw the two of them off the roadside and planted dwarf pine trees. In the green belt, they fell unconscious. When the two remaining people saw that Charlie was acting like cutting melons and vegetables, and he easily eliminated their 4 companions, and they were so scared that they turned around and flee. But before they turned around, Charlie grabbed the back of their necks directly, and then, they all turned into two parabolas and flew into the green belt on the side of the road. Mia looked silly. She never dreamed that this hanging wire riding an electric bike could be so powerful. This kind of strength is even more powerful than those famous red sticks on the road. At this time, Mia realized that she was making trouble today. So, she hurriedly said with a smile, "Mr. Wade, I'm really sorry. I didn't know that this girl offended you. Don't mind. I will transfer the 500,000 yuan back to you." Charlie smiled and said, "Don't, 6 minutes have passed, the principal is 500,000, and the interest is 3 million. You have to give me 3.5 million in total." Mia cried and said, "Mr. Wade, you kidding, the total is only 500,000. You have to charge 500,000 in interest for a minute. There is no such ruthlessness in ancient and modern China and foreign countries." Charlie smiled and asked her, "Why, haven't you seen it?" Mia shook her head and said, "Mr. Wade, such a high interest rate, I really haven't even heard of it." Charlie nodded. "Okay, not only have you heard of it now, but you have also seen it with your own eyes. I advise you to stop talking nonsense, otherwise, it will soon increase by 500,000. Mia wiped her cold sweat, and said awkwardly, "Mr. Wade, don't make fun of me. You are also working for the company. Although you gave me the money, I still have to give it to our boss. I am a part-time worker. How can I get so much money to pay you?" Charlie said calmly, "Then you can call your boss over, but don't blame me for not reminding you in advance. If your boss takes 20 minutes to come over, the interest will increase by another 10 million. When Mia heard Charlie say that she should call her boss, she was overjoyed. The reason why she pleaded for mercy to Charlie was that she couldn't deal with him alone. But since he asked himself to call the boss, she could call the boss over and let the boss solve the matter. Thinking of this, she immediately said diligently, "Then wait a minute, I will call our boss." After speaking, she quickly took out her mobile phone and dialed a number. As soon as the phone was connected, Mia said anxiously, "Mr. Benjamin, help me, Mr. Benjamin, I have some trouble at Pearl River Woods." Mr. Benjamin Liu on the phone used to be a local be it starred. He was a bit famous. But then he lost his eyes because he went to gamble in other places. His right hand was maimed, and he couldn't continue to mix in the underworld where the weak and the strong were eating, so he gathered a group of people and set up an etiquette company. The reason why he chose to work in the etiquette company is that the etiquette ladies contacted by the company are all girls with a little bit of beauty but no background. After that, all the ceremonial ladies who have come to do work for a few hundred a day, what power background can the family have? After being bullied, naturally, no one can stand for them. Because of this, Benjamin has been engaged in PR0 stone Tushan business in recent years. He was on the phone, and after hearing Mia's story, he suddenly jumped into a rage. "Damn, some people dare to grab Benjamin's money. Wait, I'll bring someone over here." Mia reminded vaguely, "Mr. Benjamin, then you must be fully prepared." Benjamin immediately smiled and said, "Don't worry, it happens that Brother Abner is drinking tea here, I will bring Brother Abner and come there." Mia asked excitedly, "Brother Abner is in our company?" "Yes." Benjamin sneered. The little D who signed last week was spotted by Brother Abner when he was working at KTV yesterday. Brother Abner wanted to take her, so he came to say hello to me. I confiscated Brother Abner's money, so he owes me a favor, just let him help me on this matter. Mia was so excited that she hurriedly said, "Okay President Benjamin, then come here quickly." Benjamin smiled and said, "Okay, tell him I will be there soon, 10 minutes at most." Mia hung up the phone and looked at Charlie with full pride. She knew in her heart that once Abner came to help, Charlie would be finished. Abner's is a common name, who doesn't know in the underground world of Oris Hill. He is one of the 4 heavenly kings. There are at least a few thousand brothers under him. Although this guy with the surname Wade can beat, he won't have hands to beat after that. I'm just waiting to see you being cut by Bro Abner's men. Disabled. However, although she was very proud in her heart, she did not dare to pretend to be forceful in front of Charlie. Instead, she said very politely, "Mr. Wade, our boss said, he's coming here in a while, you wait a moment, don't be anxious." Charlie smiled and said, "I'm not in a hurry. It is your boss who should be anxious. After all, this minute is 500,000 yuan. If he lingers for a while, he might be ruined. Mia chuckled and cursed in her heart. FCK. You idiot, really take yourself too seriously, don't you? 500,000 a minute, you FC King dare to think about it, wait until you are dying. I see how you pretend. Wendy on the side was a little worried and whispered to Charlie, brother-in-law, their company boss is a gangster. Maybe he will bring a lot of people over, let's leave. Charlie waved his hand, his face was serious, and said, how can I leave now? If I leave, what if her boss can't find me? You know, if this money is delayed for a day, do you know how much the boss will pay me? 1 minute is 500,000, 1 hour is 30 million, 20 or 40 hours is 720 million. There are principles, you can't be so cheating, you know. When Mia heard this, she lowered her head, covered her face with her hand, and said in her heart, Emma, from which haystack did this guy jump out? That mouth is really bragging. She was patient and waited for 15 minutes on the spot. 15 minutes later, a Mercedes-Benz S-Class finally drove to the parking lot at the entrance of Red Woods. Following the S-Class sedan, there were two 11-seater vans. At this time, the two vans were full of people holding machetes. The direction of the vehicle was coming from right behind Charlie's back. Benjamin in the car saw Mia, and then immediately realized that the man sitting in the electric bike in front of Mia with his back to him should be the yelling guy. He was very disdainful and secretly murmured, a sling riding an electric bike, dare you FC King pretend to be my equal? It just happens to be itchy hands today, so I will practice with you. However, when he thought of Mia's words that this filth brought down his 6 younger brothers alone, he felt a little drumming in his heart. He thought to himself, what if this guy is really good at hitting, what if he does it again? Thinking of this, he was so busy looking at Bro Abner next to him and said flatly, Brother Abner, you will have to work hard today. You can help me out. Since the beating, my hands are not that good, no one on the road recognizes me and don't give me face anymore. Unlike you, who has become one of the 4 heavenly kings, no one in Oris Hill can give you face. Bro Abner was very proud of this wave of praise, and said with a smile, Benjamin, it's just a small fry. Dare to look down on you, it is equivalent to look down on me, wait a while brother, I will make a show for you. After speaking, the driver stopped the car beside Charlie. Bro Abner pushed the door directly and got out of the car, staring at the back of Charlie's head, and cursed coldly, let me see which one hates his life, dare to offend my brother Benjamin. At this time, more than 20 younger brothers stood behind Bro Abner. Several of them belonged to Benjamin, but most of them belonged to him. When Mia saw that Benjamin had really brought Bro Abner over, she became excited and jumped and smiled at Charlie. Mr. Wade, your FC King dead today. You were waiting to be chopped into meat and sauce by Brother Abner. Wendy said nervously, brother-in-law, they are so many. Charlie curled his lips and said lightly, what's the use of more people? Bro Abner didn't recognize Charlie's voice, so he said furiously, boy, you are very arrogant. Even you don't look at Bro Abner, I think you are bored with life and crooked. Charlie turned around slowly at this time, looked at Bro Abner, and said with a smile, oh, it turned out to be Brother Abner, why? Bring so many brothers, are you going to kill me? Bro Abner saw Charlie's smiling face, and his soul frightened suddenly. He never dreamed that the filth that Benjamin brought him to help teach would turn out to be Master Charlie, whom his boss Orville highly respected. Isn't this a FC King dog? Isn't this? Bro Abner cried out in his heart, and his legs became weak involuntarily. Immediately afterward, he knelt on the ground with a plop in the eyes to everyone's surprise and choked up, Mr. Wade. I really didn't expect it to be you here. Please sir forgive me, I'm such a stupid dog. Benjamin was stupefied and blurted out, Brother Abner, why do you kneel down for this filthy rag? What kind of thing is he? As soon as Bro Abner heard this, he suddenly became angry. He struggled to stand up, stepped forward to Benjamin, rounded his arms, and slapped his face severely. With a snap, Benjamin was beaten back several steps, his whole body was already dizzy, his eyes were seeing stars. He covered his face and asked in amazement, Brother Abner, what are you hitting me for? Punch that filthy rag. Bro Abner's whole body was shivering, and he stammered, you're so FC King looking for death. You dare to say that Mr. Wade is a stinky rag. I think you are really FC King tired of your life. After speaking, he immediately shouted to all his men, damn, hold him down for me and beat him to death. Although most of Bro Abner's younger brothers had never seen Charlie, they had heard of the name. After that, this is the benefactor that Orville talks about all day long, and Orville is the godfather of the entire Oris Hill underground world. It can be said that his benefactor is the benefactor of all members of the underground world in Oris Hill. This Benjamin provokes him and it is not good. He has to provoke Mr. Wade. Isn't this just playing a lantern in the toilet and seeking death? As a result, these little brothers immediately rushed forward and pressed Benjamin to the ground, which was a violent beating. Benjamin was beaten up and screamed, crying and wailing, "Brother Abner, forgive me, Brother Abner, I don't know this Mr. Wade is your friend. If I knew it, I wouldn't have a conflict with Mr. Wade. Please forgive me. Forgive you." Bro Abner was anxious, and he blurted out without thinking, "FCK you uncle, I FC King spared you, who the FCK spared me. If Mr. Wade blames it, I FC King eat if you can't, you have to go around. Even if Mr. Wade doesn't blame me, if this matter reaches the Fifth Master's ears, the Fifth Master will destroy me. You be it start hurt me, you know." Benjamin cried and said, "Brother Abner, forgive me, I really know I am wrong." After speaking, he looked at Charlie again, crying and begging, "Mr. Wade, please forgive me, Mr. Wade." Charlie smiled indifferently and said to Bro Abner, "Okay, let your people stop first." As soon as Bro Abner heard this, he blurted out and shouted, "Stop the FCK, Mr. Wade is about to speak." A large group of people were surrounding Benjamin on the ground and kicked fiercely. Hearing this, he quickly closed his hands and backed 2 steps, standing still on the spot. Benjamin was beaten to bloody blood, and his face was swollen into a big pig's head. Mia on the side was already frightened and looked at Benjamin blankly, not knowing what to do. At this time, Bro Abner hurriedly bowed, and said to Charlie respectfully, "Mr. Wade, please tell me what to do." Charlie nodded, and said to Bro Abner, "My little horse, it's not that I told you to kill. In civilized society, don't beat and kill at every turn. How bad is it for ordinary citizens to see the impact?" Bro Abner was taken aback for a moment, and hurriedly slapped himself in the face, and said with shame, "Mr. Wade, you are right to criticize. It is my low quality that has embarrassed the people of Oris Hill." Charlie said indifferently, "It's fine now." After speaking, he looked at Benjamin and said with a smile, "Benjamin from Chengfeng Etiquette Company is always right." With blood still hanging on the corner of Benjamin's mouth, he said weakly, it's me, Mr. Wade, it's me who was wrong, I didn't know you, and offended you. Please forgive me." Charlie waved his hand and said seriously, "Oh. There is no right or wrong in the adult world, and some are just benefits." After that, he pointed to Mia, who was pale and said with a smile, "Look, I have told your president before you came, I lent your company 500,000 yuan before about 30 minutes. I have made an appointment with Ms. Mia. The interest rate is 500,000 yuan per minute. After 30 minutes, the interest rate is 15 million yuan. Together with the capital, the total is 15.5 million yuan. See when the settlement will be made. A bit much." Benjamin's whole body shuddered, and he blurted out, "Mr. Wade. Mr. Wade, your interest is too high, for a minute. 500,000, don't you want my life?" Charlie smiled and said, "Look, your company made a fortune on the overlord clause, and a person like me makes money on foreign loans. You have your ability to make a fortune, and I also have my way of making money. Those who deal must respect each other, of course.